Well, look at this. The AP rankings have come out for men's college basketball Division I.
Yes.
And for the first time this year, Arkansas is ranked.
Yeah.
Not like extrapolating the other votes to
That's
say,
a big hook right
they're
there.
27th or 28th. No, they're 24th. They're number 24 in the AP rankings right now. Gonzaga getting 59 of the first place votes. Baylor gets the other 5.
First time they've been ranked since January 1st of 2018.
Wow, I didn't realize it'd been
They
that
were ranked
long.
number 22.
Right behind Kansas in the rankings. So go ahead and start all the jokes, you non-Arkansans who live here. Let's go to the phones. We got Connor O'Gara with us. He is our friend from Saturday Down South, editor, columnist, and all-around good guy. I've been calling all of our guests that to see if they have a response to it. Connor, we here in Arkansas are dealing with what feels like a once-in-a-25-year winter storm. We got about 7 inches maybe in Fayetteville. It is still coming down. So why don't you describe what it looks like outside your window in Orlando, Florida?
Overcast. I think I'm going to run in shorts in a little bit here, but it's not too bad. It's pretty calm. Not much wind, which I like. Wind kind of prevents you from being able to do some things outside, but can't complain. But it looks a little bit different where you're at. Not going to lie.
Now, you grew up in stuff like this, as I did too.
Yeah.
As a transplant from the north, has this affected your ability, do you think, to be able to deal with real winter weather the way that you used to?
100%. Not even close. Actually, just as you started saying that, I did just get some rain. So we're both in the getting precipitation club, I guess you could say. But no, I've said many a time, this is the time of year where I always say to my family who lives back in the suburbs of Chicago, I'm not coming back. It's just too difficult. And I'm now 6 years into this, living down here in Orlando. I never lived south of the Mason-Dixon or anything like that before for college, post-college, anything like that. But, man, you just can't go back to that life once you've left it. And I talk to so many people down here in Orlando who are like, yeah, why would I want to put myself through that? Why would I go back to that and expose myself to a place that has, 6 months of the year where you just can't go outside and do anything? So you guys are still having it much, much better than they have it. They've just been getting pelted with snow nonstop for the last 2 weeks. But, it's just a little reminder of living down this far south definitely has its perks.
All right. Well, everybody in the state here has to love the thought that you put out on your recent article at Saturday Down South about the best wide receiver returning to the SEC this next year is Treylon Burks. And to be honest, I'm not sure if there's anybody in this state that would have disagreed with you to begin with. But then again, the rest of the SEC doesn't really think about Arkansas very much. What made you think Treylon Burks, when you watched him this year, is the best returning wide receiver next year in this league?
Well, this was partially prompted because of an article that I read on Pro Football Focus, which, a great resource, and I read it all the time. But an article in which I saw the national receivers ranked, and it had Pickens ahead of Burks. And I'm like, why? Why are we still at this point where everybody is so in love with George Pickens? Don't get me wrong. I love the talent. I think there are things that he can do on a football field that are so special to watch. But at the same time, I feel like Treylon Burks is a little bit still under the radar, and not from Arkansas fans. Arkansas fans know how great he was once he could finally get away from the Chad Morris offense. Go figure that he scores Arkansas's first touchdown of the year, which he didn't do in that entire freshman season. That tells you all you need to know right there. But, I think from a number standpoint, there's no argument that Pickens has. And there are people that are going to say, well, he gets to play with J.T. Daniels now, and that's all of a sudden going to make him this consistent wide receiver one. When Pickens, for a good part of the year, Georgia fans are like, he's not the best receiver on the team. And I think there are a lot of Georgia fans that would still probably say that he's not even the best receiver on that team. He didn't even lead the team in receiving. That was Kyrus Jackson. I think that a lot of people like the way that Jermaine Burton runs his routes. But Burks was a true number one. He was exactly what you would want a number one to be. You could line him up in the slot, but you could still stretch the field with him. He could come down with those big-time plays that were just as good as what Pickens would do, and he could do anything that you would ask him to do in that offense. And I think, to me, that's special. And there are people going to say, oh, well, JT Daniels and George Pickens, that connection is going to be more prolific than KJ Jefferson and Treylon Burks. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I watched that Mizzou game. Dude had over 200 yards in that game with KJ Jefferson as his starting quarterback. So I don't want to hear any of that. I think he projects so well. I think that once scouts get a look at what he's capable of doing, he's going to start getting that first-round buzz. He's kind of the exact player that Arkansas hasn't had in the last few years, and I think that's what makes him special. And for my money, he's first-team All-SEC coming into the year, and I think he deserves to be considered wide receiver one in the SEC.
Connor O'Gara joining us here on halftime. Almost said joining us here on Saturday Down South. Excuse me, the snow days got me all messed up today. Connor, about the big college football news and kind of just waiting on for it to become official. Gus Malzahn heading to Central Florida. So first off, what do you make of the move for the former Auburn head coach going to Central Florida?
Right when Terry Mohajir was hired as UCF's athletic director, my first thought was Gus. And not because he didn't hire him at Arkansas State. Now, Terry Mohajir got there shortly after Gus was hired, but there was a thinking automatically that you knew he was going to hire an offensive-minded guy at UCF, and Malzahn made a lot of sense. And from their standpoint, you're looking at this situation where you don't have a coach that's on the up and up, which has been what Josh Heupel, Scott Frost have been, and they kind of want to get away from that. They don't want to just be this stepping stone. And instead, you have a 55-year-old guy who is not motivated by money whatsoever because Auburn just is set to pay him $25.45 million. No offset language, by the way. That money is coming to Gus. And you get a guy who had a lot of success in the SEC and was in a situation in Auburn where, let's be honest, expectations got the best of him. And when you succeed like he did in year one and you're surrounded by Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, life is difficult, and those expectations are so unbelievably high that I looked at Gus's situation and thought, man, he'd be a great fit at UCF. You know that he's got the recruiting ties in the South, all over the South, as well as in the state of Florida, where you would hope that he'd be able to elevate that recruiting game, which I think that's absolutely possible. He's going to be able to run his offense, and their personnel still fits what Gus is going to try and do, and he would love to be able to look at someone like Dylan Gabriel who can stretch the field and work with him there. So I just thought it made a lot of sense from the jump. And I thought, from UCF's standpoint, I mean, how many coaches are you going to go out and get who have 5 top 25 seasons, who have been to a national championship, who have beaten Nick Saban several times? I mean, that's the kind of upside hire that you go out and get. Especially we're talking about making a hire in mid-February. Like the coaching carousel is spinning in full swing. I thought it was a great move, and I thought it made sense on both parties. And credit to Gus for being able to step away from that buyout money, which he's still getting, to be able to say, yeah, I want to work. I'm bored. I don't want to just sit at home all day, even though I've been a coach for 30 years. I want to work, and that's what he's going to get a chance to do at UCF.
Just seems odd to me that when you look at the move, which no disrespect at all to Central Florida, but Connor, it seems like Gus probably could have got another Power 5 job if he really honestly wanted to, like maybe of Texas. Tennessee's been thrown out there with his name out there, but obviously that never happened. Why do you think he wasn't necessarily looked at other Power 5 jobs?
No, I Gus wasn't going to get the Texas job. And the Tennessee thing, the timing in life is everything, right? I mean, if he had gone to Tennessee, how different is that from what he dealt with at Auburn? Really not much, where you would be in a place where you've seen administration kind of rally against the head coach, and you've wondered about who's behind the scene to try and get you fired. I mean, that's basically what he just dealt with. And to go from one high-profile situation like that, where the buyout is such a center part of the conversation, to another, it just wouldn't have made sense. And if I'm being honest, if I'm Gus, I look at that UCF job and I say, at this stage of my life, that's way more attractive. I think that opportunity to be able to work in a place that is on the up and up, there's no secret about what they've been doing from the recruiting standpoint and the speed that they're able to get recruiting the state of Florida. You have facility upgrades. You get a more favorable conference. You don't get annual dates against Alabama and Georgia that you've got to deal with. It makes a lot more sense. Now, I think that there are some UCF fans that are a little bit oblivious as to what the market actually was. But at the same time, I thought that UCF was such a great job, and I thought it was either going to be Gus or Jeff Levy, the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, who were going to make the this sense there. But, this is I still think it's just a great fit, and the timing of it makes sense for Gus. Gets to work with his former boss, who he knows is going to have his back, and I think that's a big part of why he wanted to go after an opportunity like this.
Real quick, who do you think lasts longer at their spot? Would it be Malzahn at UCF or Josh Heupel at Tennessee?
Oh, gosh, Gus, all day. Give me
Well,
Gus.
do you think he stays there? Because that, to me, it doesn't seem like that's a place where
Right.
somebody stays for an extremely long time. You had Frost, you had Heupel. Those were younger coaches, obviously, different from Malzahn. But I just don't see that place as where Malzahn ends his career.
Different phases of their careers, though. I mean, I think that's what needs to be remembered. Whereas, with Heupel, he's in a situation where Tennessee is chewed coaches up and spit them out. And it's even proven to be a lateral, a stepping stone for people like Lane Kiffin. So, I mean, I look at this situation at UCF, and I think at 55 years old, Gus is now in a situation where money is not an issue. He can settle into a spot where he knows that, this is much more like his roots than what he dealt with at Auburn. The guy who cut his teeth at the high school ranks and doing some really good work. Of course, Arkansas fans remember, and then, what he was able to do at Tulsa. But I just think that right now, I would bank on Gus being there for the long haul, and I think that's part of the motivation for him to want to stay there. Whereas with Heupel, it's like, man, I don't know, maybe he'll rebuild it in 3 years, and then we'll just move on to someone else, or maybe he won't. But it's kind of been par for the course at Tennessee.
Yeah, maybe he just likes Mickey Mouse. I don't know. Hey, do you ever get tired of the Walt Disney World jokes living in Orlando? Is that a thing Orlandoans despise?
Yes, we hate it. It's kind of the worst. Orlando is so much more than just I drive. But it comes with the territory. He's not going to have to deal with I-4 traffic. Hopefully, if he's out living in Oviedo, or maybe he's living in Winter Park or somewhere like that. I think he should go to College Park, kind of up and coming neighborhood. But I'll be sure to go over to Gus's place when he gets down here, send him a nice fruit basket, and say, hey, looking forward to having you down here.
Yeah, maybe some fava beans and a nice Chianti while you're at it. Connor, appreciate you, man. Thanks. Have a great week.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Connor.
Very good. By the way, I watched as much of Clarice as I could Thursday before I fell asleep. It's not bad, but I feel like I need to be awake for it. Also, the Hit That Line podcast network is the #1 place to find all our best online content. That's where you find podcasts from the Morning Rush, from Halftime, from Ruskin and Zach, and the Hog Talk, Trusting the Process, and Primetime Preps. We're always adding more content on the Hit That Line podcast network. Just search Hit That Line wherever you listen to podcasts. It's made possible by Breeden RV Center, family-owned and operated, a no-pressure, laid-back atmosphere, and always home of free maintenance for life. Breeden RV Center bringing you the Hit That Line podcast network. 877-377-6963. Halftime, first hour wrapping up after this.